Hey guys, it's Becky, your staff writer here for Champion Briefs, and we're going to talk today about the 2013 June national topic, which is Resolve the Benefits of American Drone Strikes Against Foreign Targets Outweigh the Harms, and a little bit about the national tournament. Before we talk about the topic specifically, I really just want to talk about the tournament because it's going to be unlike any of the other tournaments you've competed in. There are a total of 6 prelims, but there are 2 judges in each prelim. In order to advance to out rounds, which starts with round 7, you have to have a total of 8 of the possible 12 ballots. Which sounds like it can get really confusing and kind of stressful, but it's actually really cool. By having 2 judges in each prelim round, you have the opportunity to figure out which one could, or maybe both of them, work better to your advantage. You need to make sure before each round you ask judges the question, what's your experience in debate? What's your background in debate? Or, how long have you been involved in debate? Any of those 3 questions are better than asking, what's your judging paradigm, to anybody, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if they're a lay judge, by asking them what's your judging paradigm, they're already lost and confused, which paints you in a bad light and makes them feel like they're not quite as smart. Second of all, it's a really good way to start a casual conversation with a judge, so it avoids the super awkwardness of sitting in the room, and is an open-ended question that allows judges to fully explain how experienced they are without making them feel like they're inferior to you. Additionally, in the case in which, unfortunately, you don't make it as far in elimination rounds as possible, like all the way to the final round, there are supplementary events. So when you go into nationals, in the case in which your name is not on the break list with all of the numbers, you need to be prepared to switch your gears to do really well in supplementary events. Talk to your coaches and figure out which one you signed up for, and make sure you fully understand how the different supplementary events operate. Next, it's going to be super, super important for you to keep track of the handbook, or the pamphlet thing that they give you on Sunday at registration, that has logistics, that has everything that you're going to need to figure out how the tournament operates. It has a schedule, it has a map, and explains times and supplementary events, and I think there are some rules in the back. That's going to be really important for you to not lose. Also, the number that you get in public forum for your team number is going to be really important because they don't put names on break rounds. So they'll put down this big banner, and it'll literally have columns of numbers. And if you don't know your number, you're not going to know whether or not you broke. So write it on your pamphlet thing that you get on Sunday and keep that with you at all times, so that helps you not get lost when you're going to rounds and helps you understand what your number is when breaks come out. And in the case in which judges want to know your team number when they write it on the ballot. So those are really good things to keep in mind. Additionally, don't lose your ribbon. It's going to be really important that you keep that on that, and the NFL really stresses the importance of wearing it. So don't lose it, and make sure you keep track of it and wear it at all times. That's pretty important. Alright, so this national tournament is my favorite out of all the tournaments in high school, because at the opening table, or in the gym, or when registration begins, they're going to have a ton of colleges and collegiate teams represented at booths in the room where all of the colleges are. It's a super cool opportunity for you to be able to meet with directors of forensics, or DOFs, possibly even some people who come from the academic institutions to come down and meet and interact with students. Even if you're not considering, or you're not really sure if you want to compete in college, being able to network with these college coaches, these DOFs, and I know some schools even bring down current students who are competing from them. It really gives you an eye-opening experience as to what college forensics really is. And this is the only tournament where you really get to do that and interact in a situation with all of the different colleges around. So I would definitely encourage you to look into that. There's college debate and there's college speech, and you can do both at some schools. So definitely look into all of that. And I know there's a ton of free stuff there, so if you like free things, you should head over. Alright, So now that we talked a little bit about the national tournament, let's talk about the resolution altogether, which again is resolve the benefits of American drone strikes against foreign targets outweigh the harms. Now, when the topic was originally released, I was kind of frustrated because I felt like it was a very one-sided topic towards con. But the more I began to research it, the more I realized how it's pretty evenly weighted, but the importance and the ability to make the topic evenly weighted depends on debaters' abilities to use impact calculus at the end of the round. If you're not sure what that is, essentially it's like if you have a really big impact, let's say your impact is saving American lives, and their impact could be how it's kind of immoral, and you're on the pro side. At the end of the round, you'd be like, look, I will grant that there could be some questions of morals when it comes to American drone strikes on foreign targets. But because we're saving thousands of soldiers' lives by utilizing this military technique, it doesn't matter if there are questions of morality because of the number of lives that we're saving. That was not exactly the best example, but essentially you weigh your impacts at the end of the round, and you're like, mine is more important. Even if their impact happens, mine is still more important, bigger, and should always be valued first in the round, or like you should sign your ballot on this one. Additionally, the definition and framework debate is going to be really important too, and I just want you guys to remember that if you decide to use framework and definitions, and there's a clash of framework and definitions in the round, you cannot say that you should prefer my definition and then just like talk about what your definition means and then be done with it. You have to be like, this is my definition, and using my definition around is good for X, Y, and Z reason. Using their definition is bad for X, Y, and Z reasons. You literally have to do impact calculus on the definition debate. That becomes so much clearer for lay and flow judges to be able to vote off of framework if that's where your team wants to go. Whatever you do, do not drop framework. That looks really bad to lay judges, and it gives whichever person is speaking last the ability to hammer home the fact that you dropped a huge thing in the round. So, basically pay attention to that. Additionally, make sure you always tie your impact calculus back to the resolution itself. So when the resolution asks us to look about the benefits and outweighing the harms, it's asking kind of for a cost-benefit analysis, but if you decide to not go with that framework, you need to make sure that your impact calculus speaks verbatim almost. I would probably go with verbatim back to the resolution to make it super clear in the judges' minds, especially if you have lay judges. Alright, so let's talk about the sides specifically. On con, which I think is going to be I don't think there's a ton of unique arguments on the con. I think they're very straightforward and easy to explain to both lay and flow judges. You obviously are going to have arguments about how it's immoral, ineffective, causes backlash, harms U.S. interest abroad. And all of those, even if you decide to use the exact impacts out of champion briefs, I would highly encourage you to go research some more and come up with alternative impacts to the points. This helps you take a step above competition and helps you to be able to diversify your strategy if judges say they don't like a certain impact. For example, if judges say they want numbers and you pull an impact out of the briefs that doesn't have numbers, if you found an alternative impact to the point that you really want to use that has numbers, then you're good to go. Additionally, I think it's going to be really important to talk about how it increases the drones arms race throughout the Middle East and the rest of the international community, because this point is going to piggyback off of any other negative offense you have. So essentially, if you're like, drones are immoral, and then your second point is your third point is how it causes a drones arms race, or sets a precedent, if you want to go with that one too, sets a precedent for the rest of the international community, that allows you to extrapolate that impact out to the rest of the world. So essentially, if drone strikes are bad because we kill thousands of civilians and it only works 2% of the time for terrorists, then you can say if it sets a precedent for the rest of the international community, or the rest of the international community is going to model the United States, that impact of thousands of innocent lives lost will become exponentially larger. Like, you don't have to have a number for that, but running either of those 2 points about how it creates an arms race, meaning that more countries will want to use them, or how it sets a precedent, allows you to completely extrapolate all of the impacts out in the round, which I think is going to be really cool for con. But in terms of actually putting your case together, if you're going to use either of those 2 points, make sure they are the last ones in the round. Additionally, I think it's going to be really important if someone's going to run a point about how it saves American lives, or how on the pro side, if someone's like, it saves American lives, or how it kills terrorists, or how it like increases economic gain, that you just read a ton of offense. And this goes back to the impact calculus that I talked about at the beginning. We're like, cool, it does all of those things, but that doesn't matter in a world in which you're killing thousands of innocent civilians. You're essentially going to completely diminish all of their impacts and not make them sound like they're that important, and then explain why yours are the most important in the round. I think con is going to be really a lot easier to win with impact calculus, because the impacts for pro I don't think are as easy to come up with in terms of numbers and quantifiable, tangible impacts, if that makes sense. So, on the pro side, there are some pretty cool arguments on the pro side, which I think are going to be really helpful when it comes down to actually debating the topic. You're obviously going to have your standard arguments talking about the success in Yemen and Pakistan, the Libyan rebellion, as well as the drug wars. But there are some pretty cool and unique points within the briefs that I think you should take a double look at. There's one that talks about how it's helpful when it comes to coercive diplomacy, which doesn't exactly sound like the most positive thing on face value, but essentially by using drone forces and targeted drone strikes on targeted drone strikes on foreign targets, it allows the United States to be able to boost our hard power, which is military power, or coercive diplomacy. So essentially, when words don't work with foreign countries, we can just use weapons, which is pretty helpful. And the impacts to that are stronger U.S. presence, or stronger U.S. military control in the Middle East. Both of those are 2 things you could use. Additionally, I think a really important one that is going to be helpful for you is talking about how you can save American soldiers' lives. So when we don't have fighter jet pilots dropping bombs on terrorists in foreign countries and we're using drone strikes, that means that those pilots are now being kept safe on American soil and out of harm's way. This not only gives you a number impact that you can use to win over with pathos and lay judges, but also allows you to further extrapolate that to talk about how it is a sustainable military practice as we move towards more tighter military budgets. Not using hundreds of fighter jets and using computer-controlled drones decreases the amount of money spent, as well as saving American soldiers' lives. There's also a really cool point about how when you have drone production at a massive level, like when the United States military uses it, it increases demand for drones, not only in the United States, but because the rest of the world models us, the demand for drones internationally, which pushes innovation because drones are some of the most technologically innovative military practices, which is helpful because technology drives our economy, and technology is just super great for economic growth. So there are a lot of pretty cool arguments in there. There's one specifically that I just want to spend a couple minutes on. This is talking about how it undermines military operations. This is more of a defensive block, but you can also use it as offense on the pro side. The argument goes like this. We currently are using military techniques which the international community thinks are kind of a little bit illegal through the use of targeted drone strikes. However, the really cool link card that you're going to need if someone reads a point like that is that when you follow international law on military operations, it opens the door for the international community to undermine our military operations internationally. The article speaks specifically about how when lawyers in the international community make up these arbitrary rules for how we should like what's legal and what's not in military operations. It opens the door for corruption. It opens the door for undermining our techniques. It opens the door for us to be more ineffective when it comes to operations overseas. So if someone reads a point, it's a pretty cool block that you guys should take some look at. But other than that, the topic I think is pretty evenly weighted. And like I said, I would go through each point, pick out the impacts that you like or the arguments that you like, and then find various impacts for them, which will allow you to diversify your approach as well as help you become overall more successful at nationals this year. I wish the best of luck to all of our debaters competing, and I hope that you guys do super well. Make sure you check out all of the colleges who are there and network and talk to them. And stay focused, and do not lose that little packet with all of your information and the schedules and logistics. So best of luck to you guys. Let us know how you do. Send us a message. Just let us know. And Champion Briefs will be there at the Expo too, so make sure you stop by and say hey. So see you later.